It had to be filmed in color. The Naked Gun from the files of Police Squad. See you then.
And speaking of great movies, what more do I need to say about The Naked Gun from the files of Police Squad? You know, everyone loves Airplane. Airplane's a great movie. I love it as well. Naked Gun is my favorite spoof comedy of all time. The Naked Gun trilogy is one of my favorite spoof comedies of all time. I mean, these movies are just hilarious. They're just a ton of fun all around. The first movie, of course, is a classic. Got Leslie Nielsen, Priscilla Presley, Ricardo Montalban, George Kennedy, O.J. Simpson, Reggie Jackson getting tumbled over at the baseball game. Just a fun movie all around. Every time I watch it, I laugh long and hard. Classic David Zucker comedy. Just a wonderful, wonderful movie. Can't recommend this one enough. Naked Gun from the files of Police Squad. My all-time favorite comedy, and that is 1988's The Naked Gun from the files of Police Squad. Yes, this is really my all-time favorite comedy, spoof or not. It's just the most hilarious movie I've ever seen. And even after all these years, after all these times I've seen it, it still makes me laugh even to this very day. So what's the plot of the movie? We have Frank Drebin, played by Leslie Nielsen, who's on the case when his longtime partner and friend Norberg, played by O.J. Simpson, ends up in the hospital after a failed heroin bust. Drebin and his captain, Ed Hawken, played by George Kennedy, find out that there might be part of a bigger plot because they believe that this notary, Vincent Ludwig, played by Ricardo Montalban, may be in on a plot to assassinate Queen Elizabeth as she's set to make an appearance in Los Angeles. At the time, Frank falls for Ludwig's secretary, Miss Jane Spencer, played by Priscilla Presley, who may or may not be in on Ludwig's plan. So really, what makes this one of my favorite comedies of all time? My favorite comedy of all time, I should say. With so many other great ones out there. And there are a lot of great comedies out there. And just all the jokes in this movie are perfectly executed. I mean, this movie has so many great laugh-out-loud jokes, visual jokes, just so many great hilarious bits of dialogue. Jokes that you have to look in the background real close to see. I mean, there are jokes all over the place in all of these movies, and the way they're presented is just so well done. This trilogy in particular has so many great moments of comedy all throughout it. I've actually done a top 10 list of the Naked Gun's best jokes overall. And I mean, there are a lot of great jokes to choose from all these movies in the trilogy. I mean, this movie in particular, the driving instructor scene, you know, the scene where Frank goes to the harbor and talks to the harbor master to figure out what happened with Norberg. The part where Frank has to basically do the national anthem at the baseball game and has no idea what the lyrics are, so he just makes up his own lyrics. The scene where he's shooting up his own car at the police station, having no idea that it's his car that's actually being hit. But the best joke of this entire movie is the fish scene. I love the way this movie is sold as a comedy. It's a comedy, but the actors are playing it so straight and so serious, like it's a drama than a comedy, and it's freaking hilarious. The fish scene in particular is the perfect example of that. I mean, it is really one of the best, is easily the best joke in the entire movie, because you have Ricardo Montalban talking seriously. He's talking so passionately about what what used to be in this place that is right next to his building, and like he's taking this so seriously, and at the same time, this ridiculous over-the-top situation is happening to Leslie Nielsen, and it's so hilarious the way you watch this, because everything is just working where you don't question it. Like, my favorite part in there is when Montalban's asking Drebin what was out there years ago, and a fish clips his nose, he starts screaming, "Yow!" And Montalban's just like, "You bet you do. Orange groves, far as the eye could see." And the execution, the timing, the over-the-top insanity of it, just top-notch stuff. I mean, Leslie Nielsen, man, I've talked about him long enough in posts on the website, and not really here, but I'll say this. Leslie Nielsen, man, is one of those guys that anytime he's involved in something, even if it's a terrible, terrible movie, I will watch it solely because he's involved in it. I mean, he does a terrific job of recapturing this character he has from the television series, playing him both seriously and for laughs, and he makes it work, and he looks happy to be doing stuff like this. Like, even before the spoofs, I mean, he was known more as a dramatic actor, and it was because of these movies, specifically this and Airplane, that his career really took off in the latter half of his career. And of his life, and he has a great cast to work around him too. O.J. Simpson is actually really funny in these movies. So is George Kennedy. I mean, Priscilla Presley is great in this movie. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, that was my first real crush that I had as a kid growing up. Seeing her for the first time in this particular movie and seeing her just like, yeah, that was my first experience really going like, yeah, I think I like women now because it's just like, I think I like girls now because of Priscilla Presley. Like, I saw this when I was very little, and I was just like, when Priscilla Presley came down those steps, it's just like, okay, I'm set for life. Like, I think I'm finally over the girls are yucky type of thing, because that just does it right there for me. But the music overall is great. I mean, this is Ira Newborn's music playing over the film, and much like everything else about the film, it's scored as more of a drama than a comedic film. Kind of like how Alf Clausen used to do The Simpsons. Like, he scored it like a drama, even though The Simpsons was more of a comedy. He creates this great score that's not only makes it more comedic, but more than like a cop show or a cop movie. And it works when you have the opening title sequence, which are really the best jokes in all the Naked Gun movies. And speaking of the sequels, I might as well talk about those. I love both the Naked Gun 2.5 and 33 and a third, but the first movie really is the one that knocks it out of the ballpark right away. The first Naked Gun is one of the most perfect comedies ever made. It's certainly the best spoof comedy I've ever seen. I like Airplane, I like Hot Shots, but for me, the Naked Gun is the pinnacle of spoof comedies. It knows what it's spoofing. It knows not to insult the intelligence of the audience, like some other spoof films I can name, ones done by Freeberg and Seltzer. It creates great characters we can relate to. The visual jokes in the foreground and the background are top-notch. It's a perfect comedy. Perfect comedy. My all-time favorite comedy. My number 5 favorite movie of all time. The Naked Gun from the Files of Police Squad.
Washington, D.C., where violence explodes every day. But America's toughest cop is pounding a new beat.
Lieutenant Drebin.
The Police Squad is back.
Is this some kind of bus?
Very impressive, yes.
They're ready for action.
How you doing, Trooper?
Ready for love.
I'm lonely, I'm lost, I need someone to hold, to love.
Frank, over here.
And ready for seconds in the movie that proves you can lead a cop to water, but you can't make him think.
The water's over there, Frank.
Starring Leslie Nielsen.
I don't recall seeing your name on the guest list. Nothing to be embarrassed about. I sometimes go by my maiden name.
If it's not dangerous, he's not interested. Priscilla Presley as the irrepressible Jane. Robert Goulet as Quentin Habsburg.
The truth hurts, doesn't it, Habsburg? Oh, sure. Maybe not as much as jumping on a bicycle with a seat missing, but it hurts.
George Kennedy as Captain Ed Hocken.
Congratulations. I understand that Edna's pregnant again.
Yes, and if I catch the guy who did it. And O.J. Simpson as Nordberg. If you only see one movie this year, you ought to get out more often. The Naked Gun 2.5. The Smell of Fear.
Give me the strongest thing you got.
This is a sequel so big, they had to add another half.
This is, of course, a sequel to The Naked Gun from the Files of Police Squad, which was a big hit back in Christmas of '88. And this one did a little bit better than the first movie did. It was a slightly bigger success than the first movie was. Helped a lot thanks to frequent VHS play between the time of this new movie and the original film. And CBS at the time actually aired the entire Police Squad TV series, all 6 episodes of the ABC show. They actually aired them in time in preparation for this movie coming out. And so there was a little bit of a build-up here to this movie, and while I won't say that this is better than the first movie, it's still a really funny movie. Naked Gun 2.5 really is still a very funny movie, and in a way, there are parts of it where I would say it is a little bit better than the first movie is, mostly in how they do some of the comedic bits in here, some of the references they make in here. This one in particular has more of an emphasis on throwing in some callbacks and some jokes straight from the Police Squad TV series. There are lines that are taken straight from the Police Squad TV series and put into this. There are callbacks. There are homages to the original series in this particular movie. That the first movie was just... most of it was basically on its own for the most part. But there, you could definitely notice a lot more of the callbacks to some of the moments in Police Squad. Like the bit at the end in the climax of the movie where Frank Drebin and the bad guys are shooting each other. And you look and you think it's going to be like a distance... One's shooting from a distance, the other's also shooting from a distance, but they're literally right next to each other, shooting each other behind the walls and all that. There are a lot of those jokes in this movie, and they are very funny. This is still a very funny movie. I mean, right from the get-go, you're laughing pretty quickly at some of the funny stuff that they do here. And like I said, it really doesn't... it doesn't have those same good hard laughs that the first movie did, but the movie still packs a ton of good laughs in here. This is a very funny movie. Leslie Nielsen just shows why he and David Zucker and the Zucker brothers work with each other so well. Like, whenever you put Leslie Nielsen in a movie that's not done by these same people, a spoof comedy, more than usual, it doesn't usually pan out all that well. Of course, you got Priscilla Presley back for this. George Kennedy's back in this as Captain Ed Hawken. You got O.J. Simpson back as Nordberg, who has a bigger role here, but at the same time, he still gets beat up a lot in this movie. Maybe not quite as much as the first movie, but it is still very funny, and especially since, in the 30 years since this movie's come out, and you've seen what has happened to O.J. Simpson, you can't help but think that he does kind of deserve it a little bit. And there are still a lot of funny moments involving his character in this movie. Robert Goulet plays a great villain in this movie, and you also have Richard Griffiths playing the Dr. Albert S. Meinheimer in here. He actually has a couple of very good moments in here as well, some good funny moments. And like I said, it's a really funny movie. It's still very funny. It's still very silly, but the good kind of silly. It's a good fun time when you had a bad day and you just want to watch something hilarious. These movies just put a big smile on my face. I love these movies so much. Like I said, it's not as good as the first movie, but I can't help it, man. The Naked Gun 2.5, The Smell of Fear is absolutely brilliant. Funny movie. I don't think I need to say it anymore, but you gotta check it out if you haven't seen it already.
When law-abiding citizens are forced to live in fear, we look for protection to one man. Lieutenant Frank Drebin is back. This time, he's going undercover in the big house.
Where's your prison number? It's unlisted.
And playing the deadliest game of all.
That damn blue! Don't get your head out of my pocket!
But Police Squad desperately needs him back. Because a mad bomber is about to blow up Hollywood's biggest bash. And if anyone can stop him, so can Frank.
Hold on. Sergeant Frank Drebin, Detective Lieutenant Police Squad.
Yeah, and I'm Robert De Niro.
Mr. De Niro, we've got to get inside.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to present the...
We're here to prevent a disaster.
You're too late for that.
That was a guy!
Starring Leslie Nielsen as Lieutenant Frank Drebin. Priscilla Presley as Jane. Anna Nicole Smith as Tanya. Fred Ward as Rocco.
Please, and nobody gets hurt. Well, from now on.
Anna Nicole Smith as Tanya. George Kennedy as Ed. O.J. Simpson as Nordberg. And introducing Anna Nicole Smith as Tanya.
Have you seen my pigeon?
Naked Gun 33 and a third. The Final Insult. The movie that hits crime where it hurts. This picture contains mostly all new jokes. May play slightly funnier east of the Rockies.
So like I said, this is the final installment of the Naked Gun series, and this is the one that most people would say is the weakest of the three films, which, I mean, I can't argue with them on that, but that doesn't mean it's a terrible movie. Far from it. It's still legitimately a very funny movie. I mean, right from the beginning of the movie, the Untouchables parody that they have at the beginning, which actually was supposed to be part of the first movie, they never filmed it. They filmed it for the second movie, they cut it from there, and then finally they decided to put it into this movie. And it's a really good scene. It's a really hilarious scene. It just gets you set for the comedy that you're about to head into here. And the rest of the movie overall is still very funny. There are still a lot of great jokes in here. Leslie Nielsen and Priscilla Presley, once again, they're great as Frank and Jane. I mean, Leslie Nielsen he owns this character. It's going to be hard to top this performance when they're going to do this remake that they're supposedly doing now with Liam Neeson in the role there, which Liam Neeson can be very funny, but he's got big shoes to fill, though, because really Leslie Nielsen is just too hard to top in this, and in these movies. And like I said before, it is still very funny, and it's still funny even with a different director. This is the first time that they brought in an outside person to direct this film. The person here being Peter Siegel, which I've really liked a lot of his movies. We're going to be delving into a lot of his movies that coming up in these next couple of years that we'll be looking at. And he's made some really funny movies. Like, he's made a lot of great comedies. One of my favorite movies of all time, Tommy Boy, he made. He also did criminally underrated films like My Fellow Americans. He did a couple of the best Adam Sandler movies, 50 First Dates, Anger Management, The Longest Yard. He did Nutty Professor to the Clumps, Get Smart, Grudge Match. Recently he did My Spy. He's actually made a lot of really good comedies, really funny comedies, and he's probably overall one of my favorite comedy directors because of the fact that he just keeps making these really funny movies one after another. And this movie is no exception. And it's just a ton of fun all around. Like, it's a movie I go back to all the time. Like I said, it doesn't have the same amount of good humor that the first two films do. It actually does kind of slump a little bit in the middle of the film, but by the end of it, you're just back into it, man. I mean, it's just a fun movie all around. Fred Ward plays a great villain here. A lot of people didn't like Anna Nicole Smith in this, and also in the Hudsucker Proxy, but I don't know. I thought she was playing the obvious kind of the bimbo bombshell type of character that she was kind of known for. It's because most of people know her from the work in Playboy. They're not asking her to really act all that much. In fact, it's funny because, like, on specifically for the commentary for this movie, I remember Peter Siegel talking about how Anna Nicole Smith actually had to look at various things to actually get a reaction. Like, I think it was the scene where Frank goes to the clinic and he talks about how whenever she was on screen, she actually had to look at a couple things like a tennis ball, and then on one other side, something else. I can't remember what it was because it's been a long time since I listened to it. But I mean, she does what she has to do here, and you got Kathleen Freeman in here, which is a great actor, great character actress all around. And they even brought back Pap Smear from the first Naked Gun movie, which is very interesting. I didn't think they'd find a way to bring him in there, but yeah, like I said, there's good funny moments in here. Not as many as the first two movies, but it's still a wonderfully funny film. Just a solid end to what I think is one of the great comedy trilogies. I can go back and watch these movies any single time, and I will never get bored by them. They're just great movies all around. I love them. I can't get enough of them. Need I say more? Naked Gun 33 and a third. A good end to a really good trilogy of films. And, yeah, they're just great films all around.